The night felt longer than it should have. Troy sat in his car, engine off, parked outside his house, hands resting on the steering wheel. He hadn't gone inside yet. The street was quiet, still, but his mind wasn't. The impact, the gun, Jesse's face. Troy leaned his head back, closed his eyes. This ain't a game. Silence. He reached into the center console, pulled out a small bottle. Whiskey. Unscrewed the cap. Took a slow sip. Winced slightly. Then took another. He stared forward. Different now. No excitement. No thrill. Just awareness. He screwed the cap back on. Set it down. Sat there a few seconds longer. Then finally, opened the door. Inside the house, the lights were on. Melissa sat on the couch, waiting. She looked up this time. "You good?" Same words. Different weight. Troy closed the door behind him. Locked it. Melissa studied him. "You don't look good." Troy walked in slowly. Sat across from her, leaning forward slightly. Hands together. "I'm fine." Melissa shook her head. "No, you're not." A pause. Then, "I saw everything." Troy looked up. "No hiding now." "Yeah?" Melissa leaned back slightly, still watching him. "They were gonna rob you." Not a question. Troy nodded once. Melissa exhaled slowly. "I didn't even think." Her voice steadier now. "I just moved." Troy looked at her. "You saved me." Melissa shrugged slightly. "I did what I had to do, and I'd do it again." That hung in the air. Troy leaned back. Let that settle. Something about that changed him. Not softer. Sharper. More certain. "You shouldn't have had to." Melissa shook her head. "You shouldn't have been there." That landed. Troy looked away. Silence. Then Melissa shifted. Different tone now. "This isn't just printing money anymore." Troy looked back at her. She leaned forward slightly. That didn't look like somebody trying to buy something. That looked like something else. Troy held her gaze. Measured. Careful. It was just a deal. Melissa didn't blink. "With who?" There it was. Troy paused. Just long enough. Then, "People that move cash, not a full lie." "Not the truth." Melissa studied him. "You trust them?" Troy shook his head. "I don't have to trust them." Another pause. Melissa leaned back slowly. "I don't like that." Troy nodded slightly. "Me neither." That part was real. Silence filled the room again. Then Melissa said something softer. "You could have told me." Troy looked at her. "I didn't want you in it like that." Melissa gave him a look. "I ran somebody over with a car, Troy. That hit. I'm already in it. No argument. No way out." Troy leaned back, exhaled slowly. The truth sat between them now, but not all of it. Later that night, Jason sat in his truck, engine off, hands on the wheel. Staring ahead, his phone buzzed. "Troy," he answered. "Yeah." Troy's voice was calm, too calm. "We need to talk tomorrow." Jason nodded to himself. "I figured." A pause. Jason added, "You almost did something you can't take back." Silence. Then Troy, "I didn't." Jason shook his head slightly. "Barely." Another pause. Then Troy said it. "I'm not getting caught like that again." Jason frowned. "What does that mean?" "Troy, it means I'm fixing it." Jason didn't like that answer. "Fixing what?" "Troy. Everything." The line went quiet. Jason stared ahead. That tone again. Control. But something darker underneath. Back at Troy's house, he stood in the kitchen, still thinking. Then he grabbed his phone, typed, "We're making one more big move." He stared at it, then hit send. Jason read it, didn't respond, just stared at the screen. "One more," he muttered, but he didn't believe that, not anymore. The next morning came faster than Troy expected. He didn't sleep much. Just enough to close his eyes. Not enough to rest. He stood in the kitchen pouring coffee, staring at nothing in particular. The bottle from the night before sat on the counter, half gone. Melissa walked in. She looked at the bottle, then at him. You starting early now? Troy didn't look over. It's just from last night. Melissa didn't press it. She grabbed a cup and poured. Her own coffee. You working today? Yeah. Be careful. Troy nodded. I will. Outside. The air was cold. Troy sat in his car for a second before starting it. He reached into the center console, looked at the bottle, then closed it. Didn't drink. Not yet. Jason was already waiting in his truck down the street. Troy pulled up beside him. Jason rolled his window down. You. Serious about that text? Troy nodded. Yeah. Jason shook his head. Man. Troy cut him off. We're not doing this like before. Jason looked at him. What does that mean? It means we're not getting caught slipping again. Jason already knew where this was going. I don't like how that sounds. Troy didn't respond. He just pulled off. Jason followed. The gun shop sat on the edge of town. Nothing flashy. Just a sign and a quiet parking lot. Jason looked at it. Then at Troy. You serious? Troy stepped out of the car. Yeah. Inside, the place smelled like oil and metal. Glass cases. Weapons lined across the walls. Troy walked slowly along the wall. Handguns. Rifles. Then he stopped. The shotgun. He stared at it. Longer than anything else. The clerk walked over. You looking for something specific? Troy didn't answer right away. Just kept looking at it. Yeah. He pointed. That one. The clerk nodded. Good choice. Troy picked it up when it was handed to him. Felt the weight. Balanced. Real. I used to play this game. The clerk half listened. Yeah? They had one just like this. The clerk smiled slightly. Well, this one's real. Troy looked at it. I know. He set it down. I'll take it. No hesitation. While the paperwork was being handled, Troy walked over to another case. Picked out a handgun. Simple, reliable. Jason stepped closer. What are you doing? Troy didn't look at him. This is for you. Jason shook his head immediately. I don't want that. Troy looked at him now. You're taking it. Jason stood his ground. No. Troy stepped closer. Lower voice. You think next time someone pulls a gun, you're just going to talk it out? Jason didn't answer. Troy handed it to him anyway. Keep it in your truck. I don't care. Jason hesitated, then finally took it, reluctantly. This ain't us, man. Troy didn't respond. They walked out of the shop with the bags. Back in the car, the shotgun sat across the passenger seat. Jason looked at it, then at Troy. You're changing. Troy started the engine. Yeah. Jason leaned back. Didn't like that answer. Driving back, Troy reached into the console again, pulled out the bottle, took a quick sip. Jason noticed. Didn't say anything at first. Then, you really doing that now? Troy wiped his mouth. It's nothing. Jason shook his head. That's how it starts. Troy didn't respond. They drove in silence. Later that day, Troy sat in his driveway again, the shotgun now inside the house, the handgun in Jason's truck. Everything felt different, more controlled, more serious, more dangerous. He leaned back in his seat, looked straight ahead. This ain't happening again, and this time he meant it. The Mercedes SUV sat in the driveway like it didn't belong there. Black, clean, brand new. Troy stood next to it with the keys in his hand. He looked at the apartment, waited. The front door opened. Melissa stepped out. She saw the car immediately, stopped walking, looked at Troy, then back at the car. What is that? Troy held up the keys. For you. Melissa didn't move. You're joking. Troy shook his head. Go look at it. She walked closer. Slow. Careful. Like it might not be real. Ran her hand along the side. Opened the door. Looked inside. Troy. She turned to him. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to. She studied him, trying to read it. This is because of last night. Troy didn't deny it. I'm sorry. Melissa held his gaze. You don't gotta be sorry. She looked back at the car, then back at him. I did what I had to do. That sat between them. Troy nodded. Melissa stepped closer. You good now? Troy gave a small nod. Yeah. She took the keys from his hand. I like it. A small smile. Not excitement. Not celebration. Just acceptance. I'm keeping it. Troy nodded. Good. Melissa walked back to the driver's side, sat inside, started it. The engine purred smooth. She looked out at him through the window. Different now. Not unsure. Not questioning. Solid. She backed out slowly. Pulled forward. Took it around the block. Troy watched her go, then reached into his pocket. Pulled out his phone. Texted Jason. We need to talk. Jason replied fast. About what? Troy stared at the screen. Ben typed. The last move. Jason didn't respond right away. Later that afternoon, Jason pulled up outside Troy's house. Got out. Walked up. Troy was already outside, leaning against the car. Jason didn't waste time. What do you mean, last move? Troy looked at him. Calm. Focused. I'm not doing this forever. Jason crossed his arms. That's what people say right before it gets worse. Troy ignored that. There's bigger plays out there. Jason shook his head. No. Troy continued. One deal. Bigger than anything we've done. Jason stepped closer. I just got a gun I didn't want because of you. Troy didn't react. That wasn't a suggestion. Jason stared at him. That's exactly the problem. Troy held eye contact. We do one more, we're set. Jason let out a breath. That's not how this works. Troy nodded slightly. It is if we do it right. Jason looked away for a second. Thinking, frustrated. You said that last time. Troy didn't respond. Jason looked back at him, more serious now. Who is it? Troy hesitated just slightly. Someone bigger. Jason shook his head. That doesn't help. Troy leaned forward slightly. Someone who can move real volume. Jason's expression changed. That's exactly what we should stay away from. Troy shook his head. No, that's how we finish this. Jason studied him. Longer this time. You already decided, didn't you? Troy didn't answer. Jason nodded slowly. Yeah, he stepped back. This ain't one more, Troy. Troy stayed still. Jason continued. This is you going deeper. Troy's jaw tightened slightly. Or getting out clean. Jason shook his head. Didn't believe that. Let me know when you figure out which one it really is. He turned. Walked back toward his truck. Troy watched him go. Didn't call him back. Didn't try to explain. He already made up his mind. Across town, Melissa pulled into a parking lot. Got out of the Mercedes, looked back at it, ran her hand across the hood again, a small smile. Not because of the car. Because of what it meant. She wasn't scared anymore. She was part of it now. And she knew it. Back at Troy's house, he sat in his car again. Same position, same stillness. He reached into the console, pulled out the bottle. This time, he didn't hesitate. Took a longer drink. Set it back down, eyes forward. Focused. One more. Melissa sat at the kitchen table. Laptop open. Phone next to her. She stared at the screen. Scrolling. Stopping. Scrolling again. Then she clicked into another page. Numbers. Transfers. Accounts. She leaned back slightly, thinking. Her eyes drifted to her phone. She picked it up. Opened her messages. Mom. The thread was simple. Everyday stuff. Check-ins. Short conversations. Hey baby, how you doing? I'm good. Just working a lot. Melissa smiled a little. Then her expression shifted. She knew how things had been lately. Bills. Stress. Never asking for help. Melissa looked back at the laptop. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. She could really use it. She exhaled slowly, then leaned forward. More focused now. She moved through the screen carefully. Not rushed. Not sloppy. She knew what she was doing. Set up the transfer. Paused at the amount. Then increased it. Yeah. She clicked confirm. Sat back. Heart beating a little faster. Not fear. Something else. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed. Mom. Did you send me money? No, why? I just got an alert that a deposit was made. Melissa smiled instantly. Well, that's better than an unknown withdrawal. I usually get an alert when my paycheck is deposited, but crazy. Typed back. I don't know, Mom. Remember when you filled out that form about unclaimed funds a couple of months ago? Maybe that's it. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Mom. Oh my God. Maybe it is. Another message came right after. I forgot all about that. Melissa leaned back in her chair. Smiling now. Her phone buzzed again. I don't know where this came from, but thank you, Lord. Melissa stared at that message. Something about it hit deeper than she expected. Quiet. Real. She looked down at her hands. Then back at the phone. You're good now. She locked the screen. Set it down. Sat there for a moment longer. Then smiled again. Because this time, it didn't feel like stealing. It felt like fixing something. The print shop hummed like it always did. Machines running. Paper stacking. Ink in the air. Normal. Zach bent down near one of the workstations. Picked something up. $100 bill. He turned it over in his hands. Rubbed the surface. Looked at it closer. Yo, somebody drop this? A couple guys glanced over. Shrugged. Zach frowned slightly. This yours? No. He looked at it again. Something about it felt off. Not obvious. Just different. Zach walked toward the office. Knocked lightly. Ed didn't look up at first. Yeah. Zach stepped in. Held up the bill. Found this on the floor. Ed reached out. Took it. You sure it ain't yours? Zach laughed. I wish. Ed smirked slightly. Yeah, Zach lingered for a second, then just figured someone might come looking. Ed nodded. I'll hold on to it. Zach shrugged. He left. The door closed. Ed looked at the bill again, this time slower, more focused. He ran his thumb across it, held it up, tilted it toward the light. Everything looked right, but something didn't feel right. He opened his drawer, pulled out another 100, set them side by side, compared them, close. Very close. Too close. Ed leaned back, eyes narrowing. He stared at the bill for a long moment, then reached for the phone. Send Troy in here. A few minutes later, Troy stepped into the office. Closed the door behind him. What's up? Ed didn't answer right away, just held up the bill. You recognize this? Troy glanced at it. Calm. Should I? Ed watched him closely. You've been moving a lot of paper lately. Troy didn't react. Ed continued. Different orders, different suppliers, more volume than usual. Still nothing. Ed leaned forward. I've been doing this a long time. A pause. I notice things. Troy stepped closer. Slow. Controlled. Like what? Ed held up the bill again. Like this. He set it on the desk. This don't feel right. Troy looked at it, then back at Ed, then don't use it. Ed didn't smile. I'm serious. Troy nodded. So am I. Silence. Ed studied him. You got something going on here? No answer. You bringing heat into my shop? Still nothing. Ed's tone shifted slightly. I got a business, employees, a family. He tapped the desk lightly. I don't need problems. That was the line. Troy stepped closer. Close enough now. Everything about him changed. You been going to that club a lot? Ed froze. Troy didn't stop. Mandy, right? Silence filled the room. Ed's eyes flicked slightly. That was enough. Troy leaned in just a little. You think your wife knows about that? Ed didn't respond, but his face said everything. Troy continued. Calm, precise. You think she knows where that money's been going? All those late nights? All those work meetings? Ed swallowed. Troy straightened slightly. I can tell her. I can tell her everything. And I'll throw in a couple extra lies just for fun. That landed harder than anything else. Ed leaned back slowly. Now he understood. This wasn't a conversation anymore. Troy stepped back, gave him space, but kept control. You got your business. A small nod. I got mine. Ed didn't speak. Troy walked toward the door, stopped, without turning. Don't ask me about anything again. Then he left. The door closed. Ed sat there, still holding the bill, but now it didn't matter what it was, because he already knew. He wasn't in control anymore. Out on the floor, Troy walked past the machines. Same place, same people, but different now. No one knew, no one questioned, and no one would. Outside, Troy stepped into the sunlight. He paused, just for a second, then reached into his car, pulled out the bottle, took a drink. No hesitation, no reaction. He got in the car, started the engine, pulled out, driving, focused, controlled, but something underneath was shifting. Across town, at the FBI field office, Schrader dropped another folder onto the desk. Gomez flipped it open. Print supply orders. Specialty paper. Gomez scanned the list. Not many places ordering this. Schrader smirked slightly. That's what I like to hear. Gomez pointed at a line. Here, Schrader leaned in. A print shop, he read the name. Didn't say it out loud, just nodded. Start there. Gomez closed the folder. We're close. Schrader took a sip of coffee. Closer than they think. Back on the road, Troy drove. One hand on the wheel, the other resting near the console. The bottle rattled slightly with the movement. He didn't look at it. Didn't need to. His eyes stayed forward, locked in. One more.